moving on to the coloniality of power. The concept comes out of the decolonial school of thought, which emerged in Latin America in the 1990s and was developed by figures such as Aníbal Quijano, especially in his famous article, Coloniality of Power, Eurocentrism and Latin America, which came out in 2000. After Quijano, there's been important contributions made by scholars like Maria Lugones, especially on sort of the feminist aspect and the gendered aspects of the coloniality of power, and then also Nelson Maldonado Torres, Ramon Gros-Fuguel, and Rita Segato, among others. So anyhow, the concept is quite similar to racial capitalism insofar as it similarly tries to articulate the ways in which the world has been governed by a complex and dynamic power matrix named coloniality since 1492. In contrast to Marxist and other theorizations of global capitalism, coloniality tries to highlight how the system is constituted by an intertwined and entangled hierarchies of class, culture, race, sexual orientation, age, ethnicity, gender, language, and knowledge, and so forth. So, as is the case with racial capitalism, Quijano and these other theorists working on coloniality argue that class is merely one modality among many through which power is articulated and manifested on a global scale. And so coloniality theorizes also how processes of difference making serve to naturalize these hierarchical power structures, which leaves certain populations, for example, indigenous people, Black and Africana people, and women, in disposable and exploitable positions, while uplifting other populations, mainly white males, for example. And so for Quijano, this global power matrix cannot be reduced to the political and economic sphere, although he analyzes these a lot, since as we have seen, it operates equally through, the global hierarchies of knowledge, for example, through language, through cultural arenas, and so forth. So coloniality overlaps but is distinct from colonialism in that the former continues to operate even after the formal administrative structures of the latter were dismantled. So while colonialism is in the past, coloniality is alive and well. So how is all of this useful to IPE? Well, I think the concept allows us to, first of all, dislodge and question the kind of economic reductionism and the perspectives that solely take class into account, leaving gender, race, culture, and epistemology on the side. And so by centering these other issues as well, coloniality could be said to be really important in IPE. Secondly, I think it can help us understand how contemporary economic structures and institutions and phenomena are connected to colonial and racial domination. That is to say that these are not just things of the past, but very much contemporary phenomena. Third, I think it can help us think differently about the international in international political economy, and thus sort of broadening our scope and rethinking some of the prevailing assumptions within the field. And I'd like to quote here IPE scholar Felix Munt, who has argued in the pages of Review of International Political Economy that, quote, what is European, white, and male has become international and global, applicable everywhere else in the world. Connected to this is not only the idea that other knowledges are inferior, but also that non-Western peoples, indigenous communities, and women have no central role in world history, that they do not make history, and that events in the global south are of lesser significance. So I think coloniality as a concept can help us understand and tackle these and other issues in IPE, and also more broadly in our lives. So why discuss these thinkers and theories in relation to IPE? As I said, I think that these frameworks can provide important avenues into thinking critically about global economic structures and institutions, be it in terms of financialization, monetary sovereignty, the role of the state, ecological issues, or all of the above. I think Global South approaches more generally and the concepts of racial capitalism and coloniality of power can help us critically explore how these and other issues are central to IPE and sort of should be studied further. Now, moving on to the issue of decolonizing IPE, I think the first point I'd like to make here is that decolonization is not a kind of metaphor or merely about small reforms, but that the roots of the concept comes from a sort of requirement or call for a comprehensive systemic, institutional, and structural transformation. And it shouldn't be sort of equated solely with issues of representation or diversity, which are obviously important, but that's only one small part of what decolonization aims toward. With that said, I think to decolonize IPE would require us tackling the themes we have discussed up until now. So Eurocentrism, methodological whiteness, reconceptualizing and rethinking what we mean by the international in IPE, and understanding how race, gender, knowledge, and these other kinds of aspects which are not usually analyzed so much in IPE are still central to looking at economic phenomena. So to conclude, I have again a citation from Felix Munch, where he kind of encapsulates some of these points by writing that, quote, decolonizing knowledge and the academy viewed from the decolonial epistemic perspective does not mean diversifying the curriculum as suggested by neoliberal multiculturalism, since non-whiteness is not a guarantee for epistemic pluriversality. That is, one can be non-white but epistemically located in the West. Therefore, decolonizing the curriculum is a profoundly political process that seeks to challenge colonial epistemic structures and cannot be reduced to questions of identity. So in the same spirit, I've added an extensive reading list, which you'll find at the bottom of the description box. And for those of you who are interested, I hope you can dig into these topics a bit more and read some of the text that you'll find there. Thank you.